Destiny 2 has received a lot of weapons throughout its years, or 2 or 3 years of current release, from vanilla all the way to New Light, Shadowkeep, and Season of the Undying. With Destiny 2 now reaching or getting close to the 500 mark in terms of how many weapons are in the game, I was wondering to myself, what is the absolute rarest weapon or weapons in the game? Now there are some that I could think of, but we have to do a little bit more research than that to find out which one takes the mantle. Now, what do I mean by the most rarest weapon in the game? I do want to clarify that because, of course, we have rarities in the game like legendaries, blues, rares, stuff like that. But no, that's not what I mean. What I mean is the time window as to acquire this set weapon and the RNG luck base that you had to go through to get it. Now, I'm not counting weapons that nobody owns, like weapons that have been released in the that are in the database but they haven't been released. No, I'm not counting those. The weapons I'm looking at have been released at some point in the game. It's just like I said, some had a really short time window, which I will get to later in the video. Now, unfortunately, any player that came in during D2, Forsaken, or Shadowkeep, unfortunately you won't be able to get any of these weapons whatsoever, except for one. The reason is because they've been discontinued, you can no longer get them anymore. Not that you were missing out on much, some of them did have their uses, however, most of them had pretty mediocre rolls, and now with the introduction of random rolls on most year 2 and year 3 weapons, there's kind of no point for them unless you just want to show off. Now the first weapon that I'm going to talk about is going to be called Trader's Fate. Now to acquire Trader's Fate, one must either own a limited edition copy of Destiny 2 when it first launched back in September 2017, or the collector's edition, well, any editions above the limited edition. And you would get a code to get this sword, thus owning the license to it. Now, you could game share with somebody to get this sword, however, if you do, you won't be able to equip it simply because you don't own the license specifically, because it's not tied to your account, you're just game sharing. Now, the next weapon that I'm going to talk about is going to be Motion to Compel, a scout rifle from Trials of Osiris during Season 3. Now, there is a major difference between acquiring the Season 3 Trials weapons than the other Trials weapons that have been released in Season 1 and 2. Mainly, these weapons were not RNG based. You cannot get them by either turning in tokens and getting lucky through RNG, or through the clan engram that Hawthorne gives you. No, there was an actual objective to getting these weapons. So what you had to do is pretty simple, yet really challenging. What you had to do is to get the specific scout rifle or get the other Season 3 weapons was to reach rank 5, rank 10, and rank 15 in Trials respectively by turning in 300 tokens to the Trials vendor. If you did not 300 tokens, you had to grind for it by either doing challenges or winning. It's a lot of Trials, trust me, it blew my mind. So the next weapon that we have here is going to be the OG Redrix's Claymore, or the Season 3 Pinnacle Activity for Comp, or Crucible. Now, to acquire this was pretty simple. All you had to do was reach 2100 glory points, or to reach Fabled, and you would get it from Lord Checks. However, what made this weapon so hard to get back in Season 3 was due to Comp itself. Comp in Season 3 was the absolute worst version of Comp that we ever had, and the most brutal. What we have now is a saving grace and a joke to what it was back then. It was such a nightmare for some people who actually get this weapon that they just gave up. It's not like Luna's How. This thing was hard to get. So on to the next weapon, which is going to be the Zephyr Sword from the Dawning 2017. To acquire this weapon, I believe, if I remember correctly, you had to do something with Ikora. It was you get it randomly, of course, but it was something with packages. I completely forgot what it was back then, but you'll get it from that, I know for sure. However, what makes this weapon so rare compared to the other seasonal events type of stuff like Horror Store or Avalanche was because this was during a time where Destiny 2 was not in a good spot. Curse of Osiris just recently released, and well, there was a lot of conspiracies going on and a lot of things that Bungie did not do right at all, which pretty much this sword was released when the player base was at an all-time low. So not a lot of people got the chance to experience the sword because of that. So here's the next weapon. Not for God.
You serious?
All jokes aside though, Not Forgotten is one of the more rare weapons in the game due to the fact that you have to reach Legend and Comp to acquire it after getting Luna's Howl and doing the quest. But still, you don't really see it a lot in PvE, but you do see it a lot in PvP. And now that Comp is going to become a lot easier, you're going to see a lot more of this. So those are practically most of the weapons that are pretty hard to get throughout Destiny's history. But these next two weapons that I'm about to talk about completely blow all the weapons that I talk about out of the water and acquiring. In terms of, they're not difficult to get, but the amount of luck that you had to go through, and you had to practically do your research ahead of time to get these weapons. In a way, you had to predict the prediction, if you know what I mean, and if you get that SO reference. But yeah, you had to do your research to get these weapons, or else it was just entirely out of luck. And you'll see what I mean. I'll talk about it in a bit. So what I think the two most rarest weapons in the game are gonna be these two sniper rifles called Distant Tumulus from Dead Orbit and the Domino from Future World. So what makes these two sniper rifles two of the rarest weapons in the game, or the most rarest? Well, at the last faction rally of season 2, these two were offered up as the winning faction weapons winning weapons for those who represented them. And if they were to win, then you would get that sniper rifle. Unfortunately, New Monarchy won, and we all got a grenade launcher, which is pretty good, I guess. But the thing that happened, usually the case, once a weapon loses, you know, it gets added to the next loot pool, and then you'll be able to grind for it. This was not the case with these two sniper rifles. They never got added back until the very last faction rally of season 3. Now, I don't really have any constructive evidence to prove that this is false or true. However, I was going off of my own two eyes and what I was experiencing and what I was paying attention to. And it seemed that this was the case. As well as I was researching for this video, I did find some forums, on the Bungie forums, of people experiencing the same thing as I was experiencing. I'll put it up on the screen right now. And if you remember how Season 3 worked with faction rallies, you couldn't do it the same way as with Season 1 and 2. No. The way it worked was whatever faction you chose, it was account based. All your characters would go with that faction for that faction rally. You could no longer pick different factions for each of your characters, so you couldn't rep all three if you wanted to. You were stuck with one for the duration of the faction rally, which is why there's a problem. It creates this kind of like Pokemon starter thing, only without trading, to where you can only choose one out of the two of these sniper rifles if you were to plan it right. Now, there's another issue coming into this which gets even worse as to why a lot of people missed out on this. And that is due to the catalysts that were introduced in Season 3 for the Sweet Business, Graviton Lance, and Sunshot. Each faction had different catalysts. I believe that New Monarchy had the Sweet Business catalyst, the Future World had Sunshot, and Dead Orbit had the Graviton Lance. So why do these catalysts and the weapons had a connection, but they're not really related to each other? Well, it's best for me to show you better than I can explain it, because then it will make more sense. So if you take a look here at the history of the faction rally winners, if you go down to Warmind, which is at the bottom of the screen, you will see that Dead Orbit won first, Future World won the second faction rally, and New Monarchy won the third. The big reason as to why this is important is because the Graviton Lance was a Dead Orbit catalyst. The Sunshot was a Future World catalyst, which was probably the next best option now that everyone got the Graviton Lance on the first faction rally. And then what was left over was the Sweet Business catalyst. This ultimately affected many players into not getting the weapons that they missed out on. In this case, Distant Tumulus or the Domino, which unfortunately only got added at the very last one where it says the New Monarchy. So if there was a player who actually did follow the model as shown in the winning faction rallies for Season 3, where they would choose Dead Orb first, then Future Workhold, then New Monarchy, then they would screw themselves over from getting a sniper rifle, but they would get all the catalysts. Now, if they were to do it another way, like choose New Monarchy first, then they would have a chance to actually get a sniper rifle, because they would only have Dead Orbit or Future Workhold left, which is what I did. I predicted this. I've predicted that this was gonna happen, and this is why I have my own distant tumulus. So let's say you did everything right, you predicted what was going on, or you just got lucky by choosing New Monarchy first and then doing the other catalysts later. Now you're gonna have to deal with RNGs, which you can get 90 packages per faction rally before you start getting shaders. So you have 90 chances to get the sniper rifle. However, there were, by the end of the faction rally, practically every item in the game, well, that the faction rallies have been building up to, all these new items, they were on the packages. So the drop rate for this sniper rifle was actually pretty low compared to like at the start of the season, simply because of all these added loot pool items. Now that doesn't mean that it's not hard to get. No, you're probably gonna get lucky, or most likely will get the sniper rifle that you want, but you're also in the favor of, I mean, RNGs has a hand on you, bro. That's all I gotta say. Now, unfortunately, this also means that you will miss out on the other sniper rifle if you either chose Future Workhold or Dead Orbit for your final faction rally choice, which is kind of suckish. I, for one, don't have the domino because of this. But if faction rallies ever do come back, I hope they have these weapons repriced with random rolls, to give them a chance of spotlight for Guardians to wield. Now, what's the rarer weapon of the two? Well, it's the domino. So because more people chose Dead Orbit over Future Workhold on the last faction rally. It's the truth. I got a chart right here. Sorry. So it is in fact the Domino sniper rifle from Future Workhold that is the rarest weapon in the game due to these numbers. And the Distant Tumulus comes in a close second. I would like to thank you guys for seeing this video through, whoever stayed. Like is very appreciative, and this, I can see why YouTubers get tired a lot after making a video something like this, reviewing weapons or something. They have some really good editing software if that's the case, because man, this took me what, a day or so to make. I started since like the first thing I woke up, and it's about to be like 10 p.m. here. Okay, well, I'd like to thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll catch you guys later. See ya.